Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mass Appeal with Kansas City T-Bones manager John Massarelli. Mass Appeal is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Kansas City manager questions about the T-Bones, baseball or sports in general, or just seek John's wisdom about life events that are going on. In this week's episode, John talks to us about the improvement of his team's hitting. He shares with us his personal baseball insights from Major League Baseball. And John tells us what his favorite mascot was for National Mascot Day. So let's get right to Mass Appeal. So we want to welcome back manager John Massarelli. John, let's first of all start with your team updates for us.
Well, we activated Ken Brinkman this past week, and so he's trying to get his rhythm and swing back. Hopefully it's going to come around. Robbie Coosdale still battling that calf injury, put him on the DL last week. He should be activated pretty soon. We made a transaction, signed Damon Wheat, an outfielder from Emporia State, yesterday. Looks like a pretty good young player. Got a lot of tools, got arm strength and some speed. Had a couple hits last night in his debut and his first RBI, so hopefully the best yet to come for that young man.
Before we move on to the fan questions this week, I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us about your excitement from the Cleveland Cavaliers forcing a Game 7 last night.
Well, we were able to watch. We stopped in Fort Worth on our way home from down to Laredo and watched the second half of the game. I told you all to believe. You have to believe.
And you were absolutely right about that.
It'll be tough game to win out there, but only be typical Cleveland fashion. It'll come down to one of the most greatest come from behind in NBA history. So that'd be a great way to break their so-called jinx.
Well, that would be awesome for the city. What is it? 64 was the last championship. Is that right?
Right. That's what they count. The Browns 64 championship is the last one.
Well, I know you'll be rooting like crazy on Sunday.
Well, unfortunately, the game time is the same as in Laredo. I'm going to be in the dugout managing.
Oh, well, that's not fair. They moved that. Oh, actually, you probably don't want that game moved up in Laredo.
Right. So, Anthony Gallis, Schaub, and I will be probably waiting for updates on the out-of-town scoreboard there in Laredo.
Nice. Well, let us head to our fan questions this week. We'll first of all begin with Trevor from Kansas City, who says he heard you talk about in the first shows how you expect your guys to turn around and start hitting based on their history. It looks like you were right, as Jake Blackwood, Vladimir Frias, and others seem to be hitting a lot better lately.
Yes, they're starting to get going. I mean, as we get into the routine of the season, we're past the quarter-way point, and a lot of these guys just had rough quarter points. The first 20 games of getting going, and I know Vladdy down in winter ball was telling me how his first 100 at-bats, how he was in the same type of rut, and then end of the year is one of the top hitters in the league. So it's one of those things is these guys have experience at it. They're not rookies that are getting off to slow starts and doubting their ability. They understand, just like Tyler Massey, who's hitting over 300 now, and 3 weeks ago he was hitting a $180. So I expect a lot of guys to get more close to their career averages here shortly.
Amanda from Overland Park would like to know how long you expect it to take for Starlin Rodriguez to get his swing back.
He had a pinch hit last night. He's going to start tonight. Swung real well in that pinch hit at bat, and he's been battling without spring training, coming in here late. So he's such a good hitter. And I think it's going to be hard for him not to break out here soon.
Ken from Olath says, Mark Haynes is awesome. Has he established himself as your closer?
I would say so. I mean, that's tough to designate one guy. He's a guy I definitely feel comfortable late in the game with the lead. That's a closer. It's just I hate labeling one guy closer just because in the minor leagues it's different than the big leagues where you got Monday and Thursday off. We go 20 straight or 20 in a row. You need multiple guys down there that you feel confident in late. And I think we have that. I think the strength of the staff would be the bullpen.
Billy from Kansas City would like to know, are you a proponent of all of these sabermetrics and shifts and all that jazz? What I don't understand about him, and I get all the shifts, and is how
the reason it wouldn't have worked 20 years ago is because hitters wouldn't have let it work. I mean, you go back in the 80s with George Brett standing up there, and they got a shift on him. He's going to punch a single to left field every day, and they're not going to let him do that. And it's funny how this young day and age hitter in the big leagues is how they're like trained. Don't just hit into the shift. I just don't understand I got 8 guys on one side of the field. I'm not going to hit the ball to that side of the field, and it's just like nobody does that anymore. That's what I don't get.
Is it pride to not want to shoot that way? I mean, because I would think a lot of times you watch the third baseman shift to the shortstop spot, and I'm thinking, boy, if you lay down a bunt here, you could get a double almost.
And I don't know if it's agents talking or tell them, you got to put up numbers, you got to have your home run number, don't let them take away and it'll all work itself out. As soon as you start hitting a couple balls that way, then they're going to go back and play normal because they know you can do it or will do it, and that's all it takes. And I would think you'd hit for a higher average. These guys, they talk about more offense in the game and that it's pitching dominated, and they want to make it easier or harder for the pitching. Lowering the strike zone next year or taking this. I think it's the hitter's fault. They're not adjusting. They don't hit the ball where they ain't.
Interesting. Jenny from Leawood would like to know from you. She wonders if it is hard as a player or manager to be in a locker room with a guy that is getting in trouble off the field.
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, because I think most, especially in independent ball, well, even in the minors today, people aren't putting up with it. It's just it's so much harder today for these guys, a little bit with the social media. And we try to tell them that anything can be posted. Be careful on your Twitters and your Facebooks, or use Uber when you're out late at night in a club. Don't drive home. Just stuff like that gets magnified now, and people don't put up with it. As soon as your organization gets a bad light or an image, you let guys go. We take pride in the character and the type of people we bring in, and really don't have that problem. When
you were a player, were there situations, though, that you found that, some guy was kind of doing his own thing, and how do you adjust to that then?
Gosh, when I was a player, I'm glad we didn't have all this social media stuff. We'd have been all in trouble. Just the stupid stuff we did off the field that you can't get away with today because everybody's got a video camera. But that's part of it. I mean, when something's going on off the field with your teammates and nobody knows about it, I mean, it can cause a disruption in the clubhouse, no doubt. But usually it gets back. It's hard to hide things today.
Jim from Milwaukee would like to know, what do you see that has helped Jake Arrieta to turn it around?
Jake Arrieta is a perfect example of all players, and I tell our guys here in independent ball that they all have the ability to play in the big leagues, every one of them. The talent's there, or they wouldn't have gotten drafted, they wouldn't have been playing, and they wouldn't be here. It's just that ability to all of a sudden believe that I have the ability to compete and get people out. And without speaking for Jake, to me that's exactly what he did. A guy that didn't get it done in Baltimore, but always had the dynamic arm. But all of a sudden it clicked for him that, hey, I'm pretty good and I can dominate. And then once you believe that, the level doesn't matter where you're at. That's when I manage an A-ball, and what I just learned through the years is you can be sitting in A-ball and be in the big leagues in 30 days if all of a sudden you figure it out. It doesn't matter what level you're at. And there is no magic formula to get that. If there was, everybody'd be teaching it. It's just more of a mental click that goes on in some guy's head. Who had an influence on it, you don't know. But once it clicks and the ability comes out, that's where you get your superstar.
Michael from Liberty would like to know if you view Ichiro as the all-time hits leader now.
With all due respect to Japan, it's not the big league. It's not the same level. Everyone always equates the Japanese league with AAA, at least talent-wise. And so if that's the case, then all big league guys should be able to count their AAA stats as part of their hitting, as their hits.
That's an interesting point.
No, Pete Rose is the all-time hits leader. Is in the big leagues, and that's where the record is.
Our next question comes from Craig from Kansas City, who'd like to know, he knows you don't like players who showboat. Does that mean that coaches like Rex Ryan get on your nerves as well?
That's probably fair. That style. I mean, I don't know Rex Ryan personally, but I'm not that type of style where you're out there making it about you or it's your show, making it a show in your post-game conferences. I'm more, I know my owner and Chris Brown, my GM, they hate Bill Belichick probably because they're Chiefs fans. But I love how he deals with the media. It cracks me up. I just think stone faced, cold. He's not going to give you any information about his team, and if you talk about two extremes, obviously Belichick and Ryan are two extremes, and I'm not all the way to Belichick, but I would lean that way, what I'm a fan of.
Excellent. John from Cleveland asks, Skipper, why are the Browns so pathetic?
We had to go there, John. Well, I'll tell you why. I know exactly why it's been so pathetic since they came back. Is part to blame is the media and fan base combined with weak management. I mean, every 2 years they've had three owners, different GMs, multiple head coaches, and it's like somebody has a plan, but then they let the media and the fan base, because fan base in Cleveland is insane. They're passionate. They want to win, and all of a sudden it seems like the ownership just kind of lets the media and the fan base dictate how the organization goes, and then as soon as one bad year, now they're calling for everybody's head, the media and the fan base, and then the owners succumb to it, and then they keep changing. I think what Jimmy has done now is a little different than in the past. He seems to have set a solid organization in place with a pretty good coach who seems to have a good plan, and I think if they just stick with it, I think they're going to turn it around. So that's where I think they're going.
Well, there you go, John. There you go, John from Cleveland. Awesome. Next up, we have Andre from Kansas City, who'd like to know, Mass, I never seem to be able to break my glove in right. Can you tell me what is the best method to use?
I was a tire of my glove, so after I was done using it, I would put two baseballs in it and tie it with a sock to how I liked it formed. Didn't just throw it in my bag and let everything else scrunch it and throw it in the bottom and pull it out. And to me, when you're not using it, how you form it will make an impression on it.
So you would do that like after every game or practice then?
After every game, I would tie my glove.
Oh, that's really interesting. I never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's good advice. A person identifying himself as anonymous says, Skipper, let's just say I am more of an academic than an athlete. My son started playing Little League this year and would like me to play catch with him. Do you have some tips on how I can get some skills quickly to assist him and not look really bad in front of my son?
Well, you go out and practice on your own, I guess, and playing catch into a net. But heck, first advice I would give him is don't be afraid to look bad in front of your son. Let your son know you're human. That's part of, I think, being a dad. Your son learning that. Son already put your father on. You already put your father on a pedestal. But part of learning is that our dads are human beings.
We fall short too.
Yep.
McGill from Kansas City would like to know, what are some good things to do to build up arm strength after having Tommy John surgery?
Oh, Miguel, boy, that's something that's changed a lot. And before, when I was playing, Tommy John surgery was either career ender or 24 months before you were able to pitch on the mound. I got David Holman, who's, when I signed him, when Seattle released him, was only 12 months off and he was pitching in games. And so it's just changed the technology and the rehabs. That's something I would Google because it's changed so much just in the last, every year it seems to be changing, the aggressiveness that they're going after it with it. They're not near as aggressive, or they're way more aggressive, than they have been in the past, and it seems like every year they get more and more aggressive with what they're doing with Tommy John.
Yeah, what was Matt Harvey out? Just like 10 months, wasn't he, before he was back on the mound?
Yeah, it's just crazy. Now you get into that controversy where it's like young dads are wanting their sons to get Tommy John so that their arms get reborn again. I don't know. It's crazy.
Wow. Next up, we have Kendra from Kansas City, who wants to know, what is the best Father's Day present you ever got? Because she's looking for ideas.
That's going to be a tough one for me to answer because I work every single Father's Day.
That's true.
And I've always been either away from my family or away from my daughter, and even away from my dad. So I guess my best Father's Day memory and present was the year before I took the Kansas City T-Bones. I was off for the first time, and actually had my daughter over for a barbecue and was able to just relax and do nothing. That was the best present I ever got.
Having the day to yourself.
Having the day to myself. I got to work this Sunday.
So a win would be second most, the best present, I would gather.
It would be great on Father's Day.
Our last question comes from Ben from Perry Village, who says, I think Friday is National Mascots Day for whatever reason. Who is your favorite mascot?
That's easy for me. Washington Wild Thing was easily the best. And I don't know if it's the same Wild Thing now, but when I managed there 10 years ago, they had a gymnast that was the Wild Thing, and he would do stuff on our dugout that only a gymnast could do, and he was probably the best mascot in professional baseball at that time for the entertainment of what he could do. He could do backflips off the dugout and just crazy stuff that he would do athletically that made him really the best.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun for sure. Entertaining for sure.
Very entertaining.
Well, John, thanks for joining us this week.
All right, Rob, thanks.
We want to thank Manager John Massarelli for joining us on Mass Appeal this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Kansas City T-Bones manager, please send them to us at askjohn@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askjohn@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Thursday evening so we can give John a little time to review them before we record the show. I want to thank you for joining us this week. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time on Mass Appeal.